Everyone. So this is a short video meant to give you some guidance on what some options that you might have or some approaches you might want to take to creating a log for yourself of the submissions that you make to magazines once you get started doing that. And the reason this is going to be an important thing for you is that once you start really sending things out in earnest, you're going to need to be able to keep track of where you send them. Primarily for two reasons. One, you don't want to accidentally send the same piece to a place twice, whether it's already under consideration there or if it's been rejected by that place. I've had people send the same material to my magazine after we've already rejected it, and generally you don't want to do that. And the other thing that you want to have a submission database of sorts for yourself is so that when something gets accepted one place, you can figure out where else you sent it so you can withdraw it. Because that's a typical policy, is that when some place accepts a submission of yours, you will withdraw it from its other locations. So to guide you through this, I'm just going to show you what I do. And what I do is a little bit complicated, so this is certainly, you wouldn't need to use all of these things, but this is the system that works best for me. And as with so many things, your goal is to simply figure out what works for you. So I actually have 4 pages on my submission log, and I use Google Docs. Google Docs is great because you can access it anywhere, it automatically saves, so it's a really great way to do this. And really, of the 4 pages, 2 of them are very similar in that it just splits things up. So let's walk through each of these very quickly, and then I'm going to show you one other document that I keep that you might find useful. So this first page is where I track my submissions in the order in which I've submitted them. So I put the title of the piece, I put the journal I sent it to, the date that I've submitted it, and when I anticipate a response. I've actually gotten out of the habit of really identifying the date of anticipated response. I really should just get rid of this column because journals are always behind. They are very rarely getting those back to you on any particular timeline that's, accurate. They may say they take 3 to 4 months, but they often take longer. And then I also identify, it says submittable question mark, but I just identify where the way that I have submitted. So this is in just chronological sequence so that I know how frequently or how recently I submitted something. And you can see that this is important for me to have because I've got 93 items that are currently out in submission. Some of them have probably just never gotten a response because they're like 2 years old, so I should probably update that. But generally speaking, this is what you would do. And so they're in that order. So this is the title of the piece, the place that it was sent, and the date that it was sent, and then how I submitted it. And the reason I have the how I submitted it is so that if I need to withdraw something, I can quickly figure out, did I send it through Submittable? Again, you're going to see how that document works, or that site works a little bit later. Or did I send it by email? Did I send it by some site that they have? So that's what this first page is for. The second page organizes pieces by work. So it's telling me basically the same stuff. This is chronological sequence, and then this is by work. So this is the title of the piece. I like to keep the word count here because that's easy to refer back to when I have to put it into my cover letter, so I'm not constantly opening the document. I do have to make sure that word count is up to date if I've done any revisions since I put it into my database. And then I've got the number of places that I submitted it to, and I've got the list of where it's been submitted. So that's nice and easy for me to find. So let's say that this story gets accepted somewhere, I can then, if it gets accepted by Marathon, I can know, okay, I need to withdraw from Cow Creek, and then I remove it, and I have a list of everything that's been published and where further down. So this essentially gives me the same information as my current queue, just displayed in a different way. And that's helpful to me because if I need to withdraw something, or if I'm going to inquire about how long it's taken for something, I can put the date that I submitted it by looking here, and then I know where I need to withdraw stuff from by looking on this page. So that's what those 2 pages are. They kind of present the same information. What these last 2 pages are for, they're the same thing. It's just that was just too big. These are all the stories that I've submitted, and these are all the places that have rejected them, and the places that I've withdrawn them from. This is important because I don't want to send the same story to a place that's already rejected it. But there is a distinction, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the class, between a quote-unquote basic rejection, a form rejection, and a good rejection. And this is worth keeping track of because if you get these good rejections, those are places you want to resubmit to. So I keep track of that. But this way I also know I don't want to resend this story to any of the places that rejected it. And then I also have for withdrawals. And again, you might find yourself withdrawing work if it gets accepted somewhere. So when this story got published, I had to withdraw it from these 3 places. And again, I like to keep track of that because by keeping track of where I've withdrawn things from, I know that I can go back and send something new to them. And so that's what all of these are for. And so one thing I want to point out, and the reason I'm not ashamed to show this, is I get a lot of rejection letters. I've gotten a lot of acceptance letters in the last 10 years that I've been writing, but I get tons of rejection letters. A part of submitting work is getting your work rejected. That's going to happen a lot. And it's something you just have to kind of accept. And it's going to happen even to stories that get published. Let me show you, for example, my favorite example of this might be on this page, actually. Yeah. So this story, Pinwheel, did eventually get published, but it got rejected by, if you want to count this, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 stories that got form rejections, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 places that gave it a nice rejection. So this story was rejected about 20 plus places before it did get published. And a number of these places have published other of my work. So it's not like if you get rejected by one place that you can never send work to that place again. So that's sort of how I track my submissions. I also have one for submitting a novel, submitting short story collections, but again, that's not really relevant exactly to what we're doing, so that's what I wanted to show you with submission log. There are all sorts of ways people keep track. There are certainly websites you can use to keep track. There's one called The Scribbler, and there's one called the Submission Grinder that we looked at. You can track them there, but I like to do it for myself. The one other document I want to show you is I also have a submissions to-do list. So I've got a list of a couple different things going on here. I've got a list of all of my work in bold, and then I make notes of where I want to send it. The reason that I use this, and I've got the word count, again, to make this easy for me to see. The reason I use this is sometimes I'll find a call for submissions, and I actually keep track of these up here, but it's something that doesn't open until, say, August. But let's say it's June when I find it, and I don't know if I'll remember. I just make a note. So I know that in August, I want to try to find something to submit to the Beloit Fiction Journal. In October, when the Massachusetts Review opens, I want to try to submit something there. I may not have decided what to send yet, but if I have decided what I'm going to send when they open, I'll do this. So I know I'm going to send the story Tinkered Bodies to the Harvard Review on August 1st. And so every week or so, I'll go through and look at these and decide what it is I'm going to send where. Again, not something you have to do, but I find this very helpful, and I have sort of goofy notes that are things that only I will understand. But I hope that this helps give you some idea of some of the ways and approaches to organizing your submission database, which is something, like I said, you're definitely going to want to have once you start sending out your work, because if you've got any kind of memory like me, you're probably not going to remember them all on your own. As usual, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.